Chapter 1, A Discovery at the River. I took Grandma's journal out of my backpack and flipped to the page I wanted. At the top was a paragraph, written in Grandma's small and careful script. Today I found a beautiful but differently shaped tree along the Elwha River. The trunk is bent, as if the tree is carrying a heavy weight. As usual, Grandma's journal entry included a sketch of the scene. Although the edges of the page were curling and the paper was a little bit faded and brown, the giant cedars stuck out clearly. I looked from the scene in the journal to the spot on the riverbank across from me and back down to the journal. "Nice drawing, Grandma," I whispered, running my finger along the outline of the tree in the sketch. "Sam," I called to my best friend. I listened for a few moments. "Taya," I finally heard him call back. He sounded far away. "I'm by the rocks," I yelled. I sat down and looked out at the river gurgling by. The trees and animals and rivers are important to everyone who lives in this area, but they're especially important to us, the Elwha. I'm a member of the Lower Elwha Kalam tribe. We've lived on this land for thousands of years, long before it was named Washington State. Even though a lot has changed since my grandma lived here, I love knowing that she grew up and swimming in the same river and running in the same fields that I do. Sometimes looking at her journal makes me miss her more, but it always makes me feel closer to her spirit. I heard footsteps and Sam appeared. He scrambled down the rocks to join me on the riverbank. "Take a look at the sketch," I said. He squinted his eyes against the sun and peered at the journal. "Okay, now look across the river," I said. "What do you think?" Sam looked up at the giant cedar jutting out of the bank across from us. He looked back at the picture. "The riverbank looks a little different, but this must be the place," Sam said. "You can tell by that funny bend in the tree, and by the boulder on the left." "That's what I thought," I said. "I'm glad we found it. I was afraid the tree would have been cut down. It had to have been at least 50 years ago when Grandma drew this in her journal." "How many more photos do you need to take before you've matched all her drawings?" Sam asked. "Just 2 more," I said. "Mama had given me Grandma's journal a few months ago. We left it outside for 3 days and 3 nights to honor her spirit before I could use it. After I read what she'd written, I decided to start keeping my own journal. I'm not as good at drawing as she was, but I am good at taking photos. At first, my goal was to find all the places Grandma had sketched and take a picture of each one for my journal. Then I started adding more photos and letters to Grandma, telling her about my life. I try to practice writing the Kalam language in my journal, too, by labeling things I take pictures of. Some of the spots I've taken pictures of look almost exactly the same as her sketches. Some are almost completely different. A lot can happen in 50 years. I'm going to take a couple of pictures here, but I'll come meet you by the blackberry bushes in a few minutes." I settled on a rock to take the picture and wondered if Grandma sat at this very spot to sketch the tree so many years before. I turned the camera lens to make the focus clearer. The clearer the tree became, the more the river sparkled. Flecks of red, yellow, and blue light seemed to be skipping and dancing on the surface. "I've never seen the water look like this," I thought. As I snapped the picture, I heard a shriek above me. I stood and raised my head just in time to see an eagle swooping and circling over an area downriver. I ran along the bank, keeping my eyes on the eagle. In a swift movement, he dove toward the water, and I raised my camera and clicked. Got it. The screen on my camera showed I'd captured the giant bird catching a salmon and scooping it out of the water. I watched breathlessly as the eagle flew deeper into the forest. I turned and headed back to Grandma's spot. The flashes of color sparkling off the river caught my eye again. Hopping from one rock to the other, I made my way closer to the edge of the riverbank. I paused on an especially tall rock and refocused my camera to get a clear shot of the river. And then, with sudden understanding, I froze. A slick, glossy rainbow shimmered on the water. This wasn't beautiful dancing water. It was oil, and it was everywhere. "Sam," I shouted. "Sam, come quick. Get the pic—" And Sam's voice trailed off as he stood beside. His eyes widened as he noticed the oil. "What happened?" "I don't know," I said, "but we need to tell someone and get help."